Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the chart guys. The bulls continue to melt up after the FOMC reaction with massive breakout sectors, uranium and quantum putting on a show this past week. The metals are staying strong. There's a lot to check in on from the bull perspective. We're going to keep buying dips as long as it keeps working. Learn how to trade stocks, crypto, and hype sectors with a global chat room led by professional traders, as well as daily live streams at chartguys.com. So we got a clear daily uptrend in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ futures chart, as we've been saying, until the bears confirm a daily downtrend for the first time in 5 months. Nothing changes. The weakness that we saw on Wednesday into the FOMC was an hourly backburner. We had hourly oversold. It marked the daily higher low, and it was a bull flag into continuation. That is now our short-term full bull control guide, or you're using daily EMA 12, which has been holding for the last 2 weeks as well. And as far as a target, we're just looking at psychological numbers at this point. 7,000 on the S&P 500. The NASDAQ will be looking up towards 25,000 and beyond. And again, it's just, if you're concerned about euphoria, because there's definitely euphoria out there, you're walking up stops. And for me personally, I made the decision yesterday where if the S&P 500 goes 7,000 plus, then I'm going to open up the possibility of scaling out some of my long-term no-touch SPY positions. And again, I grabbed those during fear, during the CVID dump, and then again in 2022. And it will just be, that's an insane enough move that I'm going to sell some and then just wait for the next round of fear before I look to reload. But I'm not even worried about that at the moment. I essentially just set a level. If this breaks, that opens up the possibility where I can then potentially act on that position. But otherwise, just riding the bulls as long as they continue to prove it and we continue to see the rotation and the higher lows. And again, this is where you need to shut off your fundamental brain to a certain degree if the fundamental brain is screaming red flags just because price action, the number one thing that I see with people using fundamentals, talking about quantum and uranium, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, some of those stocks have no revenue and are just surging thousands of %. And it's the emotions of the human participants in the market far exceed fundamental valuations. And there's a lot of times where people using fundamentals will get run over thinking that the market's going to act rationally based on their perception and logic, when in reality, that's not how it works. So all bulls. And, I'm not going to be comfortable looking for long-term swings until it's a monthly high or low. I talked about that a couple weeks ago, but there's still shorter-term swings to be looking at. IONQ has been one of them, but, you can look for daily higher lows, not need to have, a 2-month outlook of how long I'm going to hold this position, but still be playing long. And that's how I combat, if things feel too euphoric and too overdone, it's just playing the higher lows and having stops nearby if my thesis is invalidated. So semiconductors, weekly time frame, we built a base of support. Bears failed to break it, and we head to another leg up. Daily uptrend is our guide, big gap up in response to a bunch of stuff. And the thing that's been going on with semiconductors is NVIDIA has been chilling out. NVIDIA is trading sideways in an equilibrium. And while that's going on, other names have stepped up. It was MU that got some significant rotation, and TSM has been a leader as well recently. But NVDA, will watch how this equilibrium breaks. High, low, lower, high, higher, low. This is how I'm viewing it. And again, we know the strongest bull markets, that's how it goes. The leader leads the way for a while, and then it generally starts trading sideways, and then we see rotation into other places. And certainly Bitcoin and altcoins, that's how that relationship goes. And we saw it a bit with uranium after CCJ started trading sideways, and SMR and OKLO got a big leg up. Healthcare, grinding, not really doing much. You can see the last month, healthcare is sideways. Bulls want to keep grinding these EMAs and wait for them to cross bull, or I should say allow them to cross bull to try and get another leg up. The daily time frame, if anybody's going to confirm a daily downtrend out of our major sectors, it will be healthcare that does it first. You can see multiple daily inside bars to end the week, and we've got some supports to be watching. I'm watching this zone. And so will the bears confirm the daily downtrend or not? That's definitely one thing I'm watching into this coming week. We know UNH has been a bull, but it's pulling back, testing daily EMA 12 right now. Wouldn't be surprised to see weekly consolidation here. Again, an inside bar where we close near the low. If that breaks, we'll look for the pullback. We don't really have a convincing weekly uptrend at this point. This was a dinky pivot of, 0.5%. So I'm still viewing this as a move straight up, and we will need that clear pivot for the uptrend on the weekly to get going. So we'll keep an eye on that. But again, if any major sector is going to see weekly consolidation this coming week, it would be likely healthcare. The financial sector is still strong. Little bull flag confirmed a new all-time highs this week. It's rising wedgy, but we know that in a blue sky run, rising wedges can break bull and often do. And so we're just going to stick with the higher lows as our guide. We built a base here. We held it. Now we have another higher low. So that's going to be the guide on the way up. As far as the rotation into IWM, IWM still looks fine. I was watching this potential rising wedge just to be aware of it, but I don't really care about it anymore. Now I just care about the higher lows. And again, still in a swing here for the last few weeks and just watching these higher lows as my guide, walking a stop up on at least a half position at this point. And so that stop will be under 236 now, and I'll move it up if we get another higher low. But I was looking for the rotation from semiconductors and NASDAQ into growth. And look at the IWM divided by QQQ chart, which helps us see that, right? This is when we saw significant rotation, and that's part of what made the initial trade thesis work out. But we've got to see the continuation move, and we had a double top on the FOMC reaction by 0.0001. And that was like, I'm sitting there saying, oh, here we go. I'm about to be real right with my thesis, and we reject, and now we've got two inside bars in a row. And so if we break this support, it makes me a lot less interested in IWM long. And if we break resistance, it makes me even more interested in IWM long. And again, when you're in a bullish market environment like this, it's essentially, where is my money best suited? What's going to go up the most, obviously. And so just watching IWM or QQQ and waiting for the answer with how we break from this range. Tesla has been strong as well. I'm watching the 4-hour uptrend as a guide here. We've been setting these higher lows. And again, we're in a back burner market environment. That's what euphoria is. And, the signals that I've been using are the back burners for entries. This past week, we'll talk about metals and miners and commodities and stuff, but I traded, we'll get back to Tesla in just a second, but traded the back burner, the hourly back burner on GDX just as a day trade, but it was a nice little one there. And then we had Tesla on the 15-minute. We had the back burner here marking the 4-hour higher low. Someone else did that as well. I forget which name, but it was 15-minute oversold for the 4-hour higher low, maybe IONQ. But those are, again, if things feel extended to me and I'm hesitating to buy, the back burners make me much more confident. And again, it's the same thing. My invalidation point will be nearby, but that's what I'm using. And we've also got the morning volume surge indicator, which lets us know when it's going to be a beast mode morning oftentimes. And so in the quantum space, QUBT on Friday had the signal. And again, it's when the second volume or not the second, but anything but the first volume candle is highest. And so the second one, there's your signal. Your worst entry on that signal is 1917. And then we just shoot up 15%. Obviously, it doesn't work every single time, but it's a nice high probability momentum indicator. And, there's been plenty of big bull surges where that has been a nice indication. So morning volume surges and backburners are how I'm playing what feels like an overextended market and just keeping those stops nearby. But Tesla 4-hour uptrend is our guide. And as far as the next major resistance zone, we are looking at the top of this current move this past week. We topped out in the 430s, Next one after that would be 439. Just a few levels before that all-time high. That all-time high is still 15% away. We know that's not much for Tesla, but 4-hour, keep it simple. The bulls have complete control if we keep setting 4-hour higher lows. And our last one was 415.05, using extended hours as well. But if, could this be a head and shoulders? Yeah, if we're red on Monday, this is a potential 4-hour head and shoulders into more convincing daily consolidation. But again, just walking up stops. I don't have any Tesla at this point, but a bull just walking up stops with the higher lows. All right, so uranium, absolute monster. OKLO, again, no revenue, maybe no revenue for years, but that doesn't matter when you've got the narrative, the story, the hype. And so the narrative has been building on uranium. Remember when Jungle Funk Joey and Red Devil were putting out weekly uranium videos years ago talking about the lead-in to this bull market? It's coming to fruition, and OKLO went from like $8 a year ago to now $135. We're up 1,500% in 1 year. This is a euphoria bull market. Again, I've got a memory of my career of, cannabis a couple times, crypto a couple times, 3D printing back in 2013, and uranium and quantum 2025 is up in the Hall of Fame of monster euphoria blue sky breakout markets that can be a life changer. Once in a lifetime opportunity comes along every couple of years in these markets. And that's what's going on with quantum and uranium this year. And so I'm looking for a temporary top. I was actually looking for a potential temporary top on Friday. And, one of my rules is don't short a blue sky bull. And I will sometimes do it every now and again. Also keeping in mind that I have a lot of experience. So I trust myself and I say things to the general population, you all watching this, which I don't 100% always apply to myself. Just like, if you're teaching someone how to play ping pong or whatever, and you've got 15 years of experience and it's someone's first few years, you're going to do things a little bit different. You're not going to play like a beginner. So again, it's a rule that I apply 99.9% of the time, but there are a few exceptions. And just an example off the top of my head, MSTR, this euphoria blow off top with a gap up. I'm always most confident in a blow off top when there's a gap involved, but I did short it this day because of that. And so, maybe I'll short one of these names next week. I have no idea, but back burners will be on the table. OKLO straight up on Friday. I'm sure it had a volume surge. No, it didn't. But 5-minute oversold to look for an hourly higher low. Hourly oversold to look for a daily higher low. Just absolute beast mode. CCJ is a sector leader. It hit a new all-time high. They've got headline help, a lot of fundamental backdrop for this move. And this is when CCJ was trading sideways. Again, it was the lead bull. Look at that monster move up. And then we traded sideways essentially from mid-July all the way to mid-September, almost 2 months. And while that was going on, again, OKLO put on a show. It traded sideways a bit as well, but then once that equilibrium broke bull, huge surge, SMR, monthly higher low trying to shape up really quickly. Laggard move, again, just a daily equilibrium. Bull break, a non-convincing bull break was Thursday, but followed through in a big way Friday. So uranium's still strong, and again, CCJ is the bellwether. If CCJ is holding on just fine, then the bulls are just fine. And quantum, I've noticed, oftentimes, I've probably talked about it before in the videos, but quantum and uranium trade fairly similarly. They have the same theme going, of course, the thousands of percent, but also, fundamentally, quantum's going to need significant energy. Uranium's the energy of the future. That may be the tie between the two. I don't know, but it's clear that they run together very often. And so IONQ, and again, this is the power of blue sky. We got the breakout of that monthly cup and handle and talked about grabbing that position last week. And if you asked me, we ended last week at 56. And if you asked me, what's the probability we hit 70 next week, meaning this week, I would have said like 8% chance. that we're going to go another 30% after we just went straight up in 2 days, whatever that was, 20% or whatever. Anyways, it can always go up more than you think. 29%, and then we do another 30% on top of that. So I've been scaling out. I sold some in the 50s, sold some in the 60s. I'm now down to a 25% position, and I'm just going to let it go. And I know I'm going to sit through daily consolidation with this position to try and continue. You know, could we hit 100? I have no idea. But I'm going to let the trend dictate things, because if I were selling just based on, things seem extended, I would have been all out of that position long ago. So daily stair step, again, I'm looking for a top in quantum. We will be looking for hourly oversold to mark daily higher lows. We have tons of space for the daily higher lows. And again, this was the leader move on IONQ, which is the leader of the sector. We then had RGTI make a laggard move. To end last week, RGTI was also up 25%, but this week, RGTI went 52%, where IONQ only went 30. And then you had QUBT, which was a laggard specifically for Friday. Again, last week, to end the week in those 2 days, we only went 12%. And then on Friday alone, 30%. So again, just monster moves in quantum. And that's that. QBTS is the other one. Monster move. And again, for me, it's just, I'm just focusing on IONQ and RGTI right now. And that's because I'm watching so many other sectors and things. If I was fully locked into quantum, I'd be watching all four all day. But again, in terms of trading volatility and opportunity, EMA riders, look at RGTI 5-minute EMA 12. Where do I get in? This is a 5-minute inside. No, it's not an inside bar, but just barely. So we hit 25.47. We hit 25.46. As soon as we break 26, the 5-minute higher low is set. Your stop is under 25.46. And, that's an acceptable amount of risk, less than 2%. And we end up going almost 10% higher. Yeah, over 10% higher from there. That was one mistake I made on Friday. I was trading RGTI in both directions. Got a long looking for the hourly higher low on the morning. Got a short looking for a potential top. And then I got a long again for the 5-minute higher low. But I let that long go too soon because I didn't think we were going to run all day again. And we did. But the EMA riders, again, on our website, if you look up EMA rider, if you look up morning volume surge, there's a video on our indicator page. And if you look up backburners, of course, there's a whole video and a bunch of content on that. Those are the three things in a bull market that you are utilizing to trade the bull market. And, we've been watching the EMA riders on gold on the weekly time frame the entire year, and it's still holding. And it happens on when you're in a strong trending market, it's happening on all these different time frames. And if it's a swing trade, you care about the EMA riders, again, EMA 12, care about it on the daily and the weekly. If it's day trading, you care about it on the hourly or the 5, 15 minute. But it's always great to just say, bulls have absolute complete control if 5-minute EMA 12 is support, and then just let it go. Other names. So again, okay, so now what? I'm not long in quantum until it's hourly backburner, daily higher low. I'm not longing uranium again, same thing. But there's other places. Like look at INTC. Big gap up on news. Trump's all about it, and then NVDA invests. A daily higher low is the most likely scenario. We have tons of space for it to form. So I can be scouting this coming week a daily higher low in INTC. The hourly downtrend is our guide. We're not close to hourly oversold, but watching for that to shape up. What does this remind me of? ORCL, monster gap up on earnings into some gap fill. Daily higher low set. We then double bottom at that daily higher low. We held that support by 25 cents. And now we have a little equilibrium. This is the 4-hour version of it. But why I bring this up is, number one, that's a nice 4-hour equilibrium that's going to break this coming week at some point. But also, the daily higher low. We're watching INTC for the same thing. It's not going to shape up the same way, but from that daily higher low, we go 9.6%. You're not going to nail the bottom. We close the week at the low. But again, grab half that move, 4.5%, the meat in the middle. So INTC on watch for a daily higher low. And there's a whole bunch of back burners. Open, Open's been this low cap, whether it's a meme stock or not, whatever. We hit hourly oversold back burner. Unfortunately, it was in extended hours, but again, that's your best entry point from that pre-market low. We then shot up 29% that day. So the back burners are firing. Crypto stocks, BMNR had a nice week. Still watching for the equilibrium. If we do not break 71.74, we're going to keep tightening up. And crypto is one spot that is disappointed. The bulls are disappointed with the response to the FOMC. They didn't really do much. There was some laggard action in this sector as well because we didn't see a significant FOMC reaction initially. But then you got names like, Riot has been in a decent breakout, but there were laggard moves for these crypto miners. CLSK had a big week, and MARA had a big week. Everything's going up. Everything's at all-time highs. Prices are at all-time highs for groceries and things. With the value, the value of the devaluing of the dollar, the gold's at all-time highs. The broader market's at all-time highs. Uranium. I mean, it's just so many things. Is this an everything bubble? Maybe, but it can go for a while. Commodities. As far as cannabis, we're just following the daily downtrend. I talked about it on the Dales report on Friday. Not going to get into it because that's all bears at this point without a catalyst. And there's so many bulls out there. That's where my focus is until we get a catalyst. But the dollar is a daily bounce underway. It's still, again, remember the weekly EMA 12. If that's resistance, the bears have full control. We did break support with no follow through. So we may be seeing a shift underway. But keep it simple. Weekly EMA 12 is our guide. Gold. Really strong daily higher low. Well, not really strong, just a standard healthy daily higher low. So that's now our key support. And when I draw a support like this, I say, okay, that's our higher low, but look at this base. And so I say, okay, it's not just a pinpointed level, it's a zone. We held it here 2, 3, 4, 5 times. All right, I'm watching the zone, not just the one little level there. But the all-time high is back in play. We got a daily EMA 12 rider. We got a weekly EMA 12 rider. We know we're going to visit that weekly EMA 12 again at some point before the end of the year, most likely, but no sign of it at the moment. Silver already got the bull flag confirming right off EMA 12, very strong and healthy. Again, my exposure in the metals is more so towards silver. The miners have been on absolute fire. Daily higher low off EMA 12, big surge on Friday, GDX. New highs. NEM is the individual name that's been surging here. Again, just sideways, breakout, back test and hold, and go time. And these miners were a laggard to this metals move. If you zoom out big picture, I mean, the miners didn't really get going until July 21st candle, whereas, when did gold get going? Gold was going back in February. GDXJ, same deal, testing resistance, not quite there yet. But again, new higher low level. So if I'm in a swing position, which I'm not, I was a couple months ago, wish I kept some, but you're walking up the stops, and that's now the most important level. That's your full bull control guide, is that new higher low. And we'll see how long bulls can keep running there. Oil's been boring. Still watching this basis support, but just tightening up sideways, not much going on here. Expecting volatility to pick up end of this month and into the start of October when this range does break, but not yet. Haven't looked at the energy sector in a while. Chopping around, not much going on there as well. Natural gas is trying to put in more of a bottom. We did have that double bottom, but we got to confirm a weekly uptrend if that's going to mean anything. This is a weekly bear flag until proven otherwise. Got to hold the low and break that high to see some kind of shift. There have been many times where bear flags confirming with no follow through have marked bottoms in natural gas. So that's another thing to be keeping an eye on, but I still personally have no interest in it. And that's it. Establish those game plans. What about the bear side of things? There's some potential bear trades out there. My approach to the markets is I don't focus on bear trades unless I'm swimming with the current of the broader market. If like 2022, if the broader market is in a clear downtrend on daily and weekly timeframes, okay, I will be looking for shorts much more than longs. And I actually had a surprising statistic. I looked at my last 2 years of trading, And I have more shorts than longs. And they're both very similar in terms of, win rate and things like that. I would have thought that I had, two-thirds of my trades were longs, but it's slightly more short than long over the last 2 years, just with day trading. And I also don't know with those statistics, if I'm scalping, if I'm buying 3 short positions and then covering 2 of them, is that now 3 trades being logged in when it's really just 1 trade positioning? I don't know. But Netflix, we're looking for a daily lower high here as the most likely scenario. But again, I'm not going to focus on that until the broader market shows weakness. And as far as being protective, again, you're just walking up stops and you're waiting for, we could have easily said we are way overextended back here. But if we do not confirm the daily downtrend, nothing changes. That's what's keeping me looking in the right direction. And that is going to change eventually. And it won't be right at the top. I keep saying that in all these videos. I'm not going to nail the top. But by giving in to knowing I'm not going to nail the top, I'm trading with the trend. And I'm not fighting it. And SPY hasn't touched weekly EMA 12 in almost 5 months, 4.75 months. And just looking back, when's the last time that's happened? Oh, yeah, it was October 2023. Same thing. That's when the melt up really got going, but it went 5.75 months without touching weekly EMA 12. So again, this is a melt up. How far can it go? I have no idea. But we have a daily uptrend guide. When we lose it, we're going to scout a weekly high or low. I will be taking note when we do confirm the first daily downtrend in 5 months. But until then, let's see what bulls can keep doing. Seasonality. The statistic is the low of October. Whatever the lowest price hit in October is for the NASDAQ, we close higher than that by the end of the year, thanks to the Santa Claus rally, something like 85% of the time the last few decades. So seasonality is in favor of the bulls as well into the end of the year. One day at a time, establish those game plans. Again, I put out, messages on my Facebook for people just to give them a little bit of help. And, people were calling me about buying here. Nope, wait for fear. Posted here. Here's the fear. Now's the time to perhaps start scaling in. And when am I going to give the euphoria heads up again? Break 700 on SPY, and I'm going to say, hey, maybe it's time to think about trimming some positions and have some cash for the next round of fear, whenever that is. So really just that psychological, another 5% psychological 700 will have me give that heads up. All right. Do good things. Appreciate you watching. I don't have any videos here for the end of the video. So just close your eyes and imagine some animals.